So just looking at we're going over the Birch and Swinnerton dire conjecture. It's the same sort of peg of, and is explained in the same motion of language as rhyming, essentially. Yeah. Let's put those next to each other. Those go next to each other. Yeah. Hodge conjecture. So it's trying to describe the Australopithecus in geometry generally, in the meh of mind. So it's all there in the language for the other thing too, right? So this is Hodge conjecture is all part of the same thing. Transmutation script in the motion there. All of that is already discussed, because it's kind of discussing the flow motion of all geometry generally, and with language attached. And you can see the flow motion of novelistic mind. What is that? Conservation of energy process necessarily. It's like a black hole turned inside out. So, it's alliterated with, what do you call it? Allegory of, and trite and large or whatever. But, that's called the imagination concept. The observer effect. I like to over-slather that in, and especially, I guess, to comment on just so callously, guttural in the presentation. Why? Well, identity politics is garbage. Yeah? And in the wake of this, a certain lack of tact in a large department of fake emotions. To over-explain that. Especially at times of importance. To make that normal, a breathing room, generally, for behavior that's otherwise kind of ickyly stifling. Okay, so looking at Navier-Stokes equation. This is the equation which governs the flow of fluids such as water and air. However, there's no proof for the basic equations. One can ask, do solutions exist? Are they unique? It's all in the transmutation script, flow motion of language, talking through the Riemann and black hole geometry and times is history, memory, and the feet already. All there. So, the shape of water is discussed. So that only leaves 3. And, I really just didn't even need to cover them because the language is so egregiously elaborative in the feed. Alright, so Yang mills and the mass gap. It appears the existence of a mass gap in the solution to the quantum versions of the Yang mills equation, but no proof of this property is known. Alright. The laws of quantum physics stand to the world of elementary particles in the way that Newton's laws of... let me read this by myself. Okay, so that's the positive generalistic, the mass gap. Think about the, it's just a general flow motion of pi and 22/7, generally through the transmutative script flow motion is discussed this. You can see water and why are we trying to describe this naturalistic process that seems to be additive from a reductionist pulpit, right? So that's indicative of, well, you see when you walk out into a forest, there's tools provided to you. And in nature, it is rocks and trees there. So it'd be silly to uninvent the rocks and trees to a lesser state than what's already available. So some of those natural constants are, non-terminating pi adjacent and pi and other variables that have naturalistic fluid dynamic constant generalistic mean harmonic property in and out of myriad variable general, such as fire, consciousness, water, this type of thing. The metaphysical, of course, has to be discussed in the flow motion. That's what the feed was for. The callus, allows for to chalice in the detritus of, that kind of distortion pattern provided by the allegory, and just kind of, and then up and down the food chain, you kind of experience the why of the physics in solution in passing by happenstance you might experience. So P versus NP. So, we go to this again. Okay, that's just kind of like algorithm on a page to write the P versus NP. So a little script in there's an allegory presented as the for to prove. So it's fun. That'll be fun to rip on. Unclear conjecture. Alright. In 1904, the French mathematician Henri Poincaré asked if the three-dimensional sphere is characterized as the unique, simply connected three-manifold. This question of it's interesting in 1904, right? 1907. Look at the Times History Memory. The lensing period before entering the sphere of influence. Henri Poincaré. So there might be a reason that all that gobbledygook stuff is talked about, right? Sphere, very pointedly, like I was talking about with the general fluid dynamic motion of alchemical allegory coming to fruition, happenstance at a certain time, right? That something else is fruitioning elsewhere, patterning with harmonic. That's kind of how nature works. There might be a discovery here below, and while that's going on elsewhere, and that might be why we get morphogenetic field theory, and why you don't necessarily understand the observer effect in distance harmonics generalistically. But so at the precipice of this sphere of influence or other general, as the talk describes, 1904 sphere, and this postulation of, and confusion, confusion begets, I guess, control under the influence of the geometry of, say, watch the dome show. What is the dome? Do you know what it is? Tune in next week, right? That's the 20th century. And this guy, asked if the three-dimensional sphere is characterized as the unique, simply connected three-manifold, in 1904, right? So these kind of, and still here we are, right? In the shadow of unknowing. But I would say that being that, like I said with all the others, so this 1 out of 7, so this P versus NP requires complex semi on a page something or other, but this, like all of the others, is discussed in flow motion language on the feed. So, but like I said, in explicit hotel bill stationery, but yeah, it's kind of poetic, but it's all there except one to elaborate necessarily, if you know how to assemble that logic motion. I kind of touched base upon the macro Earth as seen from space. If you look at the feed and look at they're all there already, except that one.